friends, and
Hello.
welcome back to my channel, Dear Human. Today is going to be a different type of video. I normally do fashion and beauty videos, but I thought I would do something that actually related to my life and helped me when I wrote the NCLEX. Was watching a whole bunch of YouTube videos, which is good and bad, so I thought I would do a video that
Yeah,
might be
don't
helpful
watch a
to
lot of
someone else
videos
because there
that'll
were a
make you
couple of videos
nervous
out there
before you
that
take
did
your
help
NCLEX.
me. So I'm going to talk about the things that I used, my NCLEX experience as a Canadian student, because a lot of the videos are American students, and I feel like there is a bit of a difference in the way that I did my schooling and my transition in that process. Just tips and tricks that helped me and the main things that I studied with. So first of all, I'll just talk about my NCLEX experience, which I do not want to relive. I did pass.
This is her experience as a Canadian RN. But the experience is the same for, well, different for everybody, but there's not very many Canadian videos out there, so I wanted to make this for the Canadian nurses.
2 weeks ago. I wrote on a Monday. My friend who was in the program with me, also an Ontario student, I think she wrote in Toronto as well. She wrote a couple weeks before me. She also wrote on a Monday, and she got her results at 4 a.m. the next morning. She wrote first thing in the morning. I wrote at 1 in the afternoon, so I didn't think I would get my results as quickly as she did, and I really didn't want to wait either, but I did get my results at 4 a.m. the next day on Tuesday, and I am making this video. I passed. I don't know if I'm going to put in the title or wherever it is. I did pass.
She got her results. Okay, there are a couple ways you can get your results. This goes for Canadian nurses as well, okay? There is the Pearson View trick does work for you. I won't go into the Pearson View trick in this video, but you can join my Facebook page. Just do a Facebook search for PVT group, okay? PVT stands for Pearson View Trick. That's a whole nother video, but I'm more than happy to let you join the Facebook group. There's over 4,000 people in that group, and they will help you and support you, whether you pass or fail. All right, you're allowed to be in that group. So do a search for Facebook, and I'll add you. I'm the administrator of that group.
The instructions and all the stuff is self-explanatory. If you watched a whole bunch of other videos, you know that you can write from a minimum of 75 questions to 265. I passed at 77 questions. The testing center gives you headphones, so you can obviously listen to any kind of questions that are auditory examples in the question, obviously, but also, like, I just kept them on because it helps block out any noise of other people rustling around. You can also use the earplugs that they give you, but I didn't use them. I didn't need it. I got lucky. They put me in like a private room. Like, the door was open, but I was the only one in that tiny little room, so I could make all the rustling and noise that I wanted, and I wasn't disturbing anyone else, and no one was disturbing me. They also give you a little
She makes a good
whiteboard
point. She makes a good point. When you go take the NCLEX, don't read the questions out loud. You might disturb someone else. Don't rustle around too much. You might disturb someone else. When I took my NCLEX, there was a young lady next to me that was reading every question out loud. They came in twice. They told her to be quiet, but she just couldn't be quiet. She kept reading the questions out loud, right? So finally they asked me if I wanted to move, and I said no, that was okay. That I was fine, but I had to take my NCLEX 3 times, and this was my third try, and I had just resolved myself to taking the NCLEX every 90 days back in 1996, so I was not as nervous about it. I thought I was going to fail again, but I ended up passing on my third try, which was, I made a video about that, so you could look down at my channel. It's called How I Failed Then Passed My NCLEX. But that was my experience, and this is her experience. Every experience is different, right? But be quiet when you go to the test center. Even though everybody has earplugs, be quiet. Be cognizant of the fact there's other people in the room.
erase so you can write stuff on it. The markers that they gave me kind of sucked, but I didn't really use the whiteboard at all, except to like tally all of the select all that apply questions that I got, because I did see in other videos and comments and stuff like that, people were saying if you get over 15 or 20 or whatever, select all that apply, then that means that you're doing really well and that you're going to pass. I don't know how accurate that
Okay,
is.
this is a myth. This is a myth. This is not accurate. You'll get anywhere from, some people said they got 15 select all that apply. Other people said they got like 40 select all that apply. The truth of the matter is, the select all that apply is not considered an expert question or anything like that. When you take your NCLEX, be prepared to answer at least 20, 25 select all that apply. And that's why I'm trying to figure out what is the key, what are to select all that apply. And I'm almost ready to tutor the select all that apply. I've been doing daily vlogs. So again, just do a YouTube search for NCLEX Tutor SATA questions, SATA questions, and I'll come up and you can watch my YouTube videos. But it's a myth. If you get a whole bunch of select all that apply, it doesn't mean that you're getting hard questions and you're going to pass. That is a myth.
But I did get almost almost 30 select all that apply questions.
She got 30.
I'm pretty sure, because I did I was doing tallies, so I'm
some
pretty
people
sure
get
I
as
know
little
I did
as
have
15
over 25.
and
I just
as
can't
much as
remember
40.
exactly how many anymore, but I think it was close to 30 for sure, because it's over 25. But yeah, all I used my whiteboard for was just to tally. So I'm sure that they thought, did this girl even write this test? Because this is all I had written down on there. You don't bring a calculator or pen or anything in, just your
They don't
ID.
care what you write on the whiteboard. I would suggest you put your lab values and anything you're weak in on the whiteboard.
Online on the system, which I think if you use UWorld, you should practice using that calculator, because it's really a pain in the ass to kind of get used to. I don't like using the online calculator. But yeah, and then just double check your work and you enter the problems in multiple times. But yeah, I used UWorld.
UWorld is excellent.
Completely. So the test was very much kind of formatted like UWorld as well. As I was getting closer to 75 questions, I did finish in an hour and 20 minutes. My friend finished in an hour. After 75 questions, and I had over 25 select all that apply, I thought maybe I am doing well, I don't know. And then I had 76 questions, and I was like, okay, am I not doing well? Does the system not know whether I'm competent or not? And then I had 77 questions, and I was like, great. If I have one more question after this, I'm probably staying for the full 265, and that's the thing. I didn't prepare myself to do 265 questions, and that was my biggest fear, was that I was going to have 265 questions, and I know that my anxiety and my mental capacity, I would just freak out and be like, I can't sit here for a full 265 questions. I can't sit here for a full 6 hours, even with breaks, and do any more of these questions.
Okay, she brings up a good point. So when you study for your NCLEX, you want to prepare for the NCLEX as if you're going to take the max amount of questions. I know that a lot of YouTubers and a lot of people say, just take your time doing the questions. But that's not, I disagree with that. When you're studying RNs, make sure that you answer 44 questions an hour. 44 questions an hour will bring you to 264 questions in a 6-hour period. Okay, so when you're practicing, make sure you practice 44 questions an hour and get at least 70% of those questions correct. If you could do that, then you will pass the NCLEX, especially along with my tutoring. Okay, LPNs, you have less questions. You have 205 questions. So make sure that you practice 41 questions an hour, doing at least getting at least 70% of those questions correct. On the NCLEX, you only have to get a 51% to pass. So if you get 70% of 41 questions correct per hour, and you consistently do that, LPNs, you will pass the NCLEX. RNs, if you do at least 44 questions and get at least 70% of those questions correct in an hour, you will pass the NCLEX. Very good point.
I just want to be done. But after 77 questions,
and don't
I was done.
give yourself that extra anxiety like
I'm sure a lot of people know there are research questions at the end. I didn't know that until I started watching other people's videos, and I know they vaguely mention it in like when you sign up with Pearson VUE and stuff, but I didn't know until I honestly started watching some YouTube videos, and there was no option to not do the research questions. It just said you're done. These next few questions are just research questions. They don't count towards your overall mark, blah blah blah. Okay, great, that's reassuring, but I don't want to do these research questions.
Okay.
And
who does?
Case study or whatever research questions that they had were super long and very difficult and super wordy, and I think they're incorporating it after April or whatever it is, and that was just another thing that was like playing my mind. I'm like, I don't want to answer questions like this if I fail now, because the next time I'm going to have to write is 45 days from now, so that'll be after April or whenever they're incorporating these new questions.
Okay, let me talk about those questions at the end. Please answer those questions at the end. Nothing to get nervous about, okay, but please answer the questions, because they are going to incorporate those questions the next time the NCLEX changes. And what they're doing by you answering those questions is they're testing those questions out. If people miss them, they will throw them out and they will not be part of the changes. The next time the PN changes, or the next time the RN test plan changes. So please answer those questions at the end. Take your time. It's not going to count against you. I know you want to get out of the test center, but do your fellow nurses a favor. Answer those questions slowly, right? Because if you miss those questions, they will throw them out of the pool. So you're really helping nurses that come after you with the NCLEX. If the question is poorly written, they'll throw it out. If too many people miss the question, they'll throw it out. Now, the basic principles of the NCLEX never changes, but the questions do change. So please answer those questions methodically, nothing to worry about. Answer them as if you're taking the exam. Okay, you're going to be helping your fellow nurses that come after you, and you might have to, and you'll be helping yourself if you should fail and have to take the NCLEX again, and it changes. All right, so nothing to worry about.
And I have, like, I don't know if that's the style of questions that they're going to use in the future, but NCLEX is already like an anxiety driven
very much
exam.
So.
It's like the worst possible thing for nursing
very much
students.
So.
I really don't think they should change the question format to whatever they're doing in their research section. I don't know how accurate it is, but anyway.
They're not changing the format. They're changing the question. What they're doing is they're making sure the question is written right. If people can understand it. If too many people miss the question, they're going to throw it out. I personally think they should do away with the SATA question, okay? The exhibit questions, fine. Place in correct order, fine. Chart questions, right? Fine. But those SATA questions, man, really need to be thrown out. We really should sign a petition and get those SATA questions stopped. But that's a video for another day, right?
Yeah, that was my NCLEX experience. It was, like the actual test, and in hindsight, what I can say, like now, I'm prefacing everything before I tell you how I studied, how I didn't study, what I should have done, and all the tips and tricks.
Again, this is her experience, not yours, okay?
I have to say,
don't psych yourself out with people's experiences, okay?
Not extremely difficult. They
says her.
Ramp you up.
Says
my
her.
anxiety was like through the roof. I was freaking out, having mental breakdowns before
Everybody's
my exam,
experience is
like
different.
weeks before, like 2 weeks before my exam, and then a week before my exam, I just full blown like having panic attacks and just like not being able to study and just feeling overwhelmed
Anxiety
about
is a
how
big
much I
reason
needed to
people
know and
fail
how
the
much I needed to
NCLEX.
learn. So I postponed my exam for a week. I just rescheduled. I was supposed to do it the Monday before that I had actually written, and I just postponed it for a full week. And that full week, honestly, I didn't study that much because that's how much anxiety I had. I did 300 additional questions on New World, and that is the most I could do because as the days got closer to the exam, I just couldn't review anymore. All I reviewed was like very simple things and just looked at my lab values. I was like, I can't absorb any more information. I was just like paralyzed from anxiety, and I was just like, I can't absorb anymore. I can't even look at the questions and do
If
them.
you're
I'm just
having
passively just
anxiety when
reading the
I tutor
questions,
you,
not absorbing
let me
anything.
know so that I can help you
And
with that
like
anxiety and work with
watching
it.
YouTube
Okay, I
videos,
need to
like it
help you
helped
with
a
that
little bit,
anxiety.
and then it didn't.
Anxiety is
It
a
would ramp
big
up my
reason
anxiety,
people
like
fail.
looking at people's like marks and stuff, and all of that as well.
Think of me
So
as
I
your
was like, I don't
NCLEX
know, am I gonna pass in
therapist,
75
all
questions?
right?
All of
Not
that
just
stuff.
a
All
tutor.
that it was all contributing
Because I
factors.
help you with
And
your
people say like,
NCLEX
the biggest reason you
holistically.
fail the NCLEX is really your anxiety. It's not that you don't know stuff,
See?
it's your anxiety. So I was like,
See
well,
that?
I'm freaking anxious, so I'm gonna fail for sure.
Aw, poor
But
thing.
I didn't, and thank God I did. Like, there's no shame in rescheduling your exam, and I rescheduled it. But
There's
honestly,
no
I didn't use
shame
that
in
time
failing either,
to study. It was just mostly like it gave me some breathing room.
as long as you take it
Sorry,
again.
I'm
There's
just
no
gonna
shame in
reposition.
failing
It just
either.
gave me some breathing room so I could like just do the additional questions, and like I didn't have a chance, honestly. It was just too much information to review all of the things that I was weaker in or I would have wanted to review, or things that I marked to review. But honestly, overall, the NCLEX is not super difficult. Like, yes, I got some hard questions, but that's because I'm assuming I was doing well. So
Again,
then I would
says
get a hard
her.
question, and I would get
Says
another
her.
select all that apply, and then I would get a hard question. So it was a little hard, but it's stuff that you know. Like, honestly, you
She's
can't
got a
go through
good
nursing
point
school
there.
without doing
It is the
not a
basics.
critical care, but like an acute care placement. You do have to have one. I can't imagine
But
that
you
you
can't
would go
possibly
through
know
nursing
everything,
school
and
not
that's what
have
makes
one.
it difficult.
And I've experienced in
Right?
acute care, and my final practicum was in critical care, so I was very lucky in that sense as well, because I have this experience behind me. So, I mean,
Sometimes experience makes you fail the NCLEX because you do have that experience and you picked the wrong answer. So, experience does not necessarily help you. When I tutor, I like when people aren't nurses because it gives me a fresh, clean slate to work with. So, again, this is her experience, okay?
that helped as well, but like honestly, if you were studying the important things and not stressing the small stuff,
Study
it is
the
stuff that
important
you should know.
things.
It's stuff that all of
See?
us
Good
should know
point.
as nurses, so we can be deemed competent. So honestly, just breathe, just relax. It is stuff that you know. Like, if I
Amen,
had to write the
sister.
NCLEX again right now, I wouldn't want to, but I would do it. I haven't studied or looked at my notes or anything in the last how many weeks. I know it's stuff that I know, so it's not completely out of left field. It's not completely different things that you shouldn't know, but honestly, it's not as hard as you think it is. It is difficult a little. Like, I know I'm saying mixed messages right now, but
Difficult but
it's not
passable.
as difficult as you think it is. It's a tough exam,
Entry
just
level
like any
nursing.
tough exam you would have in university, but it's
Not
not harder
forensic
than that.
nursing,
You are competent,
right?
you
Entry level
graduated.
nursing.
I graduated with distinction, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I finished with a critical care placement, and I had glowing reviews. I did an extremely difficult placement before that. Again, I had glowing reviews,
Right.
and I just still doubted myself, and it just...
Don't
it's
doubt
because
yourself.
They make... I don't
God
want to say
will
they make
help
such
you.
a big
Just
deal out of
relax.
it, but they
We
make
got
such
God,
a big deal out of
right?
it, and it's honestly not that big a deal. You know this stuff, and everything you don't know, use the time now to honestly learn all of the
But
basics.
you got to give God
It's the
room,
basic
right?
stuff that
You got to
need
give
to
God
know that you
room
should
in
be
your mind. So
competent in.
clear your anxiety
Not
and make
all of the
room for
random
God.
disease
just
processes and
relax. He'll
random
help
things
you.
and whatever it is, because there's a million things that they could pull out of nowhere. Because I talked to my friend about it too. She's like, honestly, because I told her I rescheduled my exam because I was so anxious and I didn't even use that time to study. But anyway, she was like, honestly, even if I had pushed it back a week, there's no way I would have been able to study some of the things that just came up on my test, because some of the things are
Right.
just so random. Like,
There's no way
there's
you
no
can know
possible way for you
everything.
to study everything possible. So just know the main concepts, know how to prioritize, know how
Good.
to delegate tasks.
You hear
Just
that?
honestly, it's
Know how to prioritize, know how to delegate, know infection, understand my concepts when I tutor you. That's a big thing. And she's saying the same thing here. Listen carefully to her, okay?
majority like knowing how to prioritize things, like what is most important. You should know this. And knowing your lab values, like very basic things, and like basic skills you should know as well. Like very basic skills, things you should look out for in common disease processes, like signs of an infection, things like that. These are all common things you would need to
I
know if
tutor
someone's
that.
a kid, an adult.
I focus on expert topics. All right. I'll tell you in just a minute. Let me let her finish her thought process, and then I'll tell you what I tutor.
Or is an elderly person. All of those things. So what did I use to study? So
Okay, these are the topics that I tutor. These are expert questions. These are expert topics, okay? Prioritization, infection control, triage in a disaster, legal and leadership, farm and farm math, EKGs, and end of life care. These are expert topics, and and of course, get a hold of me. My information will be at the end of the video, and let me see how I can help you. Tutoring is important. If you're taking it for the first time, you don't have to get everything, gang. Just get prioritization and infection control. That will help you, But let's see what she did to pass her NCLEX. Again, how did she study? This is her experience, all right?
this is going to be a very long video. When I was watching these videos, I honestly also thought, why are these videos so long? They could be broken up, and I might break it up differently as well, just to really dive into the tips and stuff like that. But
this is not going to be a long video. I made it as short as I could.
Again, I would like to say
there's no reaction
shame in
video.
Rescheduling your exam, there is no shame in failing. I was just so anxious.
No shame in scheduling, rescheduling.
Like, you know what?
No
Honestly,
shame in failing.
At this point, that it is what it is. I fail, I'm going to take some time.
Nobody will ever say to you, you can't be my nurse. How many times did you take the NCLEX? They will never ask you that. What they will ask you is, maybe they'll ask you if you're an LPN versus an RN. That might be a question every now and again. But nobody ever says, how many times did you take your state boards? So don't sweat these state boards. You graduated. You are wonderful. You are a child of the universe. You are a child of God. You've got this, right? Hey, can I get an amen?
Off and just not do any studying, because honestly, I'm not studying hard enough. I'm studying hard, but I'm also just studying with so much anxiety that I'm not absorbing any information. So if I fail, it's because of my anxiety. It's not because I don't know anything. I know I'm.
When I tutor you, if you have a trouble with anxiety, you gotta let me know so I can help you with that too, okay?
Distinction with good marks. I must.
Two main reasons people fail the NCLEX is anxiety and reading the question wrong. Those are two things that are easily fixed. That was my biggest problem, anxiety and reading the question too fast. So please let me know and think of me as your NCLEX therapist, and we will work through these two things. Easily fixed.
Know what I'm doing. It's not me. It's not a sign of you as a nurse or you as a student. It's a hard exam because of the anxiety. And because of all the preparation we need to do. It's very daunting. You don't even know where to start. But again, no shame in failing. you're just gonna write it again. You're gonna take that time off, do some self-reflection, take a few weeks off, and
I'm
then
going to
you're just
do
going to
another video
reschedule,
on
and
what
you're
to
going
do
to
if you
review
fail.
all the stuff that you
But
and you know in your
you
heart of
found this
hearts
video.
which
You're
parts
not
you're
failing.
lacking
We
in and
got
which
this.
parts
Especially
you
if you
need to
give me a
work on.
call.
And now that you've written the NCLEX
For
one,
sure we
you
got
have
this.
a little bit of a better idea as to how hard it really is and where you're lacking and where
Amen.
what's freaking you out and what questions are you getting wrong, and you know which questions you are doubtful about. Like when you write an exam, you're like, okay, I'm pretty sure I know that one. That one I'm a little iffy about. This one, definitely I don't know. Like you know what you know, and you know what you don't know. So be honest with yourself. So there's
Be
no shame in
honest with
failing,
me when I tutor you,
and there's
okay?
no like shame in passing at like 75 versus 265. You pass. That is what it is.
Sometimes you fail the
Yeah.
NCLEX when you don't
So
study enough.
that's that. So what did I use to study? So I did get the Saunders book. I got this for free because my friend had it and she used it to study. It was in very good condition when she gave it to me. Now, not so much. Not because I do now that I've taken some time off after my NCLEX
Saunders
and I'm
is
applying
way
for jobs
too
and I want
easy.
to jump back into work and stuff like that.
Saunders is too easy. Do not use Saunders to study. I recommend when I tutor you, I I like Lippincott NCLEX. It's called Lippincott's QA-RN review for PN and Lippincott's QA review NCLEX review for RN and PN. I like that book. Saunders is too easy. I dislike Kaplan. We just fast forward a little bit here. Okay.
On anything except UWorld. Saunders, I think, is way better than Kaplan. Just the way
Saunders might be better than Kaplan, but Saunders is also too easy.
It has questions at the end of each
UWorld,
section.
I highly
This
recommend.
book is very good for review, and actually that is what I'm going to do now that I've taken some time off after my NCLEX and I'm applying for jobs and I'm going to jump back into work and stuff like that. It is really good comprehensive review, and it's stuff that I would like to know, even though honestly a lot of the stuff
it might
is
be
stuff
good
that you
for a
would learn
review,
in
like
person,
if you
but
just got
for areas
hired
that
and
you're
you
really
need to
weak in, say
review,
it's cardiac,
or
maternity,
if you've been out of
pediatrics, I
college
think
for a long
it's
time,
good to
that
have
might be good for
some
content,
resource
but it's
material
not
if
good
there's
for
a lot
questions.
of stuff that you feel like you don't
Saunders
know.
is
But
not
you can
good
get
for
this book
questions.
from a
It
library,
is good for
ask a friend,
content.
whatever it is. Even online, if you just go online, there's so many free resources for things where you can just get your base foundation of information from, basically. Because doing questions and stuff are great, but if you're not learning anything from,
well, if you don't know your content, there is a lot of free online stuff, but there's so much out there that you don't know where to turn. This is why I hope you turn to me for at least one tutoring session, gang, so that I can point you in the right direction. I mean, I'll teach you prioritization for a small fee. You don't have to get everything from me, but just something to point you in the right direction, to give you some tools. It's awful confusing to do it alone.
Doing the questions, then you're just going to be lacking a whole lot of knowledge. Just like if you get a question on vital signs and that's all you know is vital signs, you're really going to be screwed. So yeah, I would recommend getting Saunders if you feel like you're one of those people who need to read first and then do all the questions. But the questions in Saunders are very easy. They're very simple. Like,
see? Too easy.
I did
Too
a
easy.
cardiac placement. I did the cardiac questions, and it's not like I knew everything possible about cardiology or on the cardiac unit because it was a very difficult placement, but I did those questions super easily on Saunders. But then on UWorld, it's a whole different story. I mean,
I highly recommend UWorld.
Like the percentile and the average, but the Saunders questions, and I'm pretty sure the Kaplan questions are very easy. So what I used was UWorld.
Kaplan's stupid
use UWorld.
decision tree.
Absolutely amazing. I think
retarded.
As a Canadian student, it's almost $300. I got the 2-month
totally
one
retarded.
where you get 2 predictor tests, because I wanted to do. I had noble ideas that I would do a predictor test, like 2 weeks before the exam or a month before the exam, and then I would do the other one 2 weeks before the exam. I think 2 weeks before the exam, and then a couple days before is when I originally wanted to do the predictor test. I did my predictor test like 5 days before my exam, and then the second one like a couple days after that, like a week.
Don't do that so close to your exam. If you're going to take a predictor exam, take it like a month ahead of time. If you're going to get tutoring from me and use UWorld, take your predictor exam before you get tutoring from me so that I can help you with that, right? And then take a predictor exam after you get tutored. I need 3 weeks to tutor you. There's about 7 or 8 sessions I need, and I tutor 3 days a week. If you get closer to your exam and you find me at the last minute, I could tutor you every day of the week. But why would you cram all that in? Why would you, heighten your anxiety? So easily give me 3 weeks to tutor you. But if you're in a hurry, you could still get tutoring from me.
Before my exam, actually. Less than a week, and then I did my exam was on Monday, and then I did the predictor
She
test
gave herself
Friday,
unnecessary anxiety.
and I was like, it is what it is. I learned a lot from the predictor tests as well.
If she would have failed, she would have cried her.
Just know it and learn it the first time, because honestly, those concepts.
I had to cut the video here because she swore a couple times.
Because you're not going to have time unless you spend the full 2 months studying beforehand, and you do all of the questions, and you spend a good chunk of time.
Ideally, give yourself 3 months to study. Ideally,
I started making notes.
That's an ideal
thing. I didn't go very far because doesn't mean you will fail if you don't. I was like, I need to do each concept by concept and break it down as well. And had one cue card just for all of my labs. I collected all my lab values on there. Know your lab values.
Know your lab values. Know your ABGs. Arterial blood gases too.
And I didn't make that many flashcards. I made sure to condense.
And keep in mind, when you write things down, you probably will not have time to review it. You can write it down if that's the way you learn, but just keep in mind you may not have time to review everything you wrote, but some people learn that way. So don't write so much. Don't go into detail with your writing because you're not going to have time to review it.
Information I felt confident in. I didn't write it down. I didn't have that many flashcards, and I didn't have time to look at them. You honestly, or if you're like me and you're a procrastinator studier, you're not going to have that much time. And if you're just doing a bunch of questions a day, you're going to get overwhelmed, overstimulated, and you're not having time to reconcile.
When I tutor you, I want you to do, especially if you're doing UWorld and you're getting 40s and 50s, all right? That is not good in my book. I want you to do at least 75 to 100 questions a day. At the very least, I want you to do 50. I tutor you, give you the concepts, but then you have to apply those concepts. You have to apply my strategies. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you practice questions. And UWorld is an excellent resource. UWorld and the National Council Board of Nursing, their actual website, is another good resource. So whether you get UWorld or whether you get the National Council Board of Nursing website or whether you get the Lippincott Q&A and NCLEX review, I don't care. But if I tutor you, I would prefer that you have one of those 3 resources to practice questions. I will tutor you, but you've got to practice.
That information and really remediate it and understand that information. So I think my biggest tip is try and do obviously as many questions as you can, but really do I think your aim should be 50 to 75 questions a day. And if you really are confident and you can do more questions, do more. And then I think you should The other caveat is because I did not as many questions a day and I started ramping it up near the end where I was doing 75, 100 to
You're not being
150
fair to
questions a
yourself
day,
when you do
just
that.
because I was feeling the stress,
Do 50
is
to
just
75
prepare
questions
yourself to
constantly,
write
or
265
do
questions so you don't have
75
the
to 100
anxiety looming
questions a
over
day
you
if
that
you
if you
don't know the
don't pass at
content.
75, you know you have the mental capacity and the
Here's a
attention
good rule of
span
thumb.
and the fortitude.
Here's a good rule of thumb. If you're scoring low in the Lippincott book, UWorld, whatever you're using, if your scores are low, do 75 to 100 questions a day. If you're getting a 70% or better, then do 50 questions a day. Okay? I would like you to do 44 questions in an hour, RNs. If you get 70% on your 44 questions, you're good to go. LPNs, do 41 questions in an hour. If you get 70% or better with your 41 questions, you're good to go. And make sure that you do a comprehensive exam. Don't do just maternity or cardiac or something like that. If you're going to score yourself and see if you're ready for the NCLEX, do it with a comprehensive exam.
To be able to sit down and write 265 questions. Definitely practicing with 75 questions a day is a good minimum, because then you're practicing, you're seeing how fast are you doing these questions, all that kind of stuff. But it's also not a good indicator because you're studying at the same time, or at least that's what I was doing. I don't like doing 75 questions and then going back and reviewing all 75. I like doing one question at a time, reviewing it, making my note, making my flashcard.
Whatever works for you. Whatever works for you.
Going through the concepts. I think the trick is, if you are crunched for time, as I was, I think you should do 15 questions in each section. So when you go in UWorld, you understand what I mean.
That was her experience. That's what she did.
Section,
whatever works
cardiac,
for you.
Integumentary, neurovascular, whatever it is, you're doing 15 questions at a time. And out of
good advice,
15,
though.
15, 15, and then you have 75 questions and you're doing the whole test bank. Do each section by itself. Do cardiac by itself. Do neurovascular by itself. When you're doing maternity, do the different sections of maternity by themselves.
Now, I don't tutor the different sections of content, but let's say you're weak with maternity. Say, hey, Miss Garrison, I'm weak with maternity. Can you help me with that? I'm weak with cardio, or I'm weak with endocrine. I don't tutor the specific sections, but let me know ahead of time. Maybe I can maybe I can help you. I'm finding that I have to branch out and really make the tutoring session specific for you. So let me know.
If there's smaller questions or less questions in each section, do 10 or whatever. Just do like 10 to 15 or really 15 to 25 questions from each section if you are crunched for time, because
this is very good advice.
Honestly, those concepts do translate for the whole section. Okay, so if you're crunched for time, don't just put all your eggs in one basket, and definitely break it up when you're studying. If you're not crunched for time, I think you should do section by section, but then again, obviously make it your max that you're doing questions in each section 50.
If you decide to do section by section, if you're doing UWorld, you might not be able to go through all their questions because they have a bank of 2,600 questions, right? So if you do section by section, make sure you do your weak content first, okay? If you absolutely hate maternity, then do maternity first, because what's going to happen is you're going to go to the NCLEX, you're going to get a maternity question, and you're going to be like, oh my God, this is my weak subject, blah. Okay? So do your weak section first, so that if you don't go through all of UWorld's sections, it's okay, because you did your weak areas first. She'll go on to say she saved her weak areas for last and she wasn't able to get to them. Therefore, she caused herself undue anxiety.
So if you've done 50 questions of cardiovascular for the day, that's good. Just let that information simmer and ruminate in your mind and move on to another section.
Interesting word.
Don't just focus on finishing the questions of each section, just making sure you're doing a good majority of each, and then go back and then do the remaining questions in each section, because then you'll see how much you're actually remembering. Because again, those concepts are concepts that are throughout all of the questions in, say, that entire cardiology section. So if there's 125 cardiology questions and you've done 50, move on to another section now.
Good advice.
And then when you come back and you do another 50 and you're doing really well, or you notice you're getting the same questions or very similar questions and you're not remembering the topics, maybe you didn't remember those questions properly the first time. And that's a good way to know if you're actually learning as well, because if you just do 125 questions at a time, or like finish that whole section and you get whatever mark you get, you don't know if you've actually learned anything or not, because you've just done it that one section, you reviewed it. Because if you reset those questions, you might remember the answers to the questions.
Advice.
So that's not a good indicator that you actually learn anything.
Now, after I tutor you, if you want to reset the questions and try again and use the concepts that I taught you, that would be great. Okay? So like if we tutor triage and you go to the triage section in UWorld, reset those questions and practice my concepts, and you will find that you will do much better. So I'm not totally against resetting, because you would have been doing your own thing and then you found me. I want you to practice my concepts with UWorld's questions. I want you to practice my strategies with a National Council Board of Nursing questions. I want you to practice my concepts with the Lippincott QA NCLEX review book. You see, you need time to practice my concepts and strategies, which work 75% of the time. And all you need to get on the NCLEX is a 51%, right? So don't worry too much. We got this, gang. I always tell people, give God one hand, give me the other hand, and we'll help you jump through this mud puddle called the NCLEX. That's what it is. The NCLEX is a total mud puddle.
We were just memorizing the answer from before. So those are just my tips. That's just the way I think is most effective. Again, section by section, learn each section. The biggest tip is, again, if you are crunched for time, like I was, and I had 300 questions left, and they were in maternity and pediatrics, the biggest concepts that I did not know, I left for last.
See, don't leave your weakness for last, because you might not be able to get through all of UWorld's questions.
I did not, honestly, I had no desire to learn it or to study it, and I knew
she didn't have any desire
because I didn't know anything about those things. Actually, maternity and pediatrics is not that hard to learn, and I did the same tricks I did in maternity and pediatrics. I did 10 to 25 questions in each section just to get the gist of it, and I think that's what got me through. Honestly, I wasn't super confident in it, but I knew I could get by. I wanted to just master the concepts that I already was kind of good at, and just master it, so at least I know what, to be the best at the questions or the topics that I know I'm going to be really good at. The biggest things I think that help the most is prioritization. Prioritization, that section, those questions encompass all of the topics.
So with my tutoring, you don't have to get everything. If you just can afford one topic, get the prioritization. That's the one that I have the most tools, the most strategies, the most concepts that you could carry through all of the NCLEX questions. I would prefer that you get everything, but if you're crunched for finances, at least get prioritization.
All of the topics, even fundamentals and your skill, everything, because you're prioritizing. You have to know some of these disease processes. You have to know it's not always a kid that is a priority, and there's differences between A, B, C, D, and if there is like a huge emergency, like a giant accident or something somewhere,
Right.
and you are an
That's
emergency
why tutor
responder as a nurse
triage.
on the scene, and
Okay.
prioritizing that way. Those concepts translate
That
to
see,
all of the other
triage is not
concepts
something
in
you learn in
NCLEX.
school.
So definitely finish those sections, and you will see that
But it's a big
it
part on the
helps the most. So
NCLEX.
prioritization is the biggest section that I think you need to finish.
It's considered an
What
expert
else?
topic.
My exam was getting closer.
Okay, I'm going to have to end the video here, gang. See you in the next video.